Hello, everyone. This is Live Life Well TV host Robert Landau, and we've got another episode of America's Greatest Personalities for you now. This time, we go into the world of music, specifically the world of jazz music in America, when we highlight the life and times of the great Dizzy Gillespie. Stay tuned. The great Dizzy Gillespie has been called many things, but they all seem to center around one thing: the fact that he was and will always be one of the founding members of jazz in America. Dizzy Gillespie has been called the elder statesman of jazz, the leader of two of the finest big band jazz bands in all of history, and he's also been called the greatest trumpeter of all time. What was so special about the great Dizzy Gillespie? Well, just about everything, including the fact that Mr. Gillespie was the only musician that could make any wrong note sound right. What I mean by that is he would play a wrong note during a number, and because of the unique way he arranged the entire piece, that wrong note just sounded right and somehow seemed to fit in. He, unlike many others, felt a profound need to pass on many of his unique innovations to the next generations and not keep them selfishly all to himself. To that end, Dizzy made sure he wrote anything and everything down about the amazing art that he created, so that all after him could not only understand it, but emulate it and keep it going. Gillespie was also the founder of the unique style of music that grew out of the big band era called bebop. It was Dizzy and Dizzy alone that took music from swing to bebop. He was also the founder of a unique style of jazz called Afro-Cuban or Latin jazz. I wonder if you've ever seen Dizzy in person. I mean, what an event it was, because his unique personality always came through and was sure to keep you laughing and having nothing short of a blast while you were watching him do his thing, simply because he was having such a good time. And when a musician, when a performer, when an entertainer is obviously having a good time doing what they do, well, the audience is sure bound to feel that energy too. And while we're on the subject of unique, because that's exactly what Dizzy was, what was unique about his look? His puffed out cheeks are very visible in most photos that you would find of him. Also, a bent trumpet, which actually occurred by accident when a dancer tripped over his trumpet one night. Dizzy really liked the way that it ended up looking so much that he decided to keep his trumpet looking that way forever. By the way, his trumpet is at a very unique 45-degree angle. And you know what he also had in spades was an amazing sense of humor. Here are some things that he was famous for saying. He once said, "I don't care too much about music. What I like is sounds." Dizzy also said, "It's taken all of my life to learn what not to play." Gillespie also said this: "The idea of life is to give and to receive." Dizzy Gillespie also was famous for saying, "I always try to teach by example and not force my ideas on a young musician. One of the reasons we're here is to be a part of this process of exchange." John Birks, B-I-R-K-S Gillespie, was born on October 21st, 1917, in a place called Cheraw. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sorry, South Carolinians, but Cheraw, Cheraw, South Carolina. He was the youngest of 9 children. Gillespie's father was a bricklayer, pianist, and a band leader. His dad would just happen to keep all of the band's instruments at home. Can you imagine how fun that must have been for somebody like young John Birks Gillespie to rummage through and to secretly play with? I guess out of all the instruments that were stored at home, young John was most intrigued with the piano and actually the trombone, the latter of which he picked up and totally ended up teaching himself how to play. The trombone, though, ultimately wouldn't work out simply because young John's arms were way too short. So what did he do? As you probably can surmise, he changed to the trumpet by the time he became 12 years of age. John's family was poor. And when it came to him going to college, there simply was no money for him to even think about it. One of the reasons may have been because John's father passed when John was only 10 years of age. John was able to get a scholarship, though, but it was a scholarship to go, get this, to an agricultural school. Would John stick with that program for long? Well, I think you know the answer to that question. No. That trumpet was calling to him something fierce. He could no longer ignore the fact that he needed to pursue his true calling and what he deemed to be his true passion. So with that very thing in mind, he dropped out of agricultural school and ended up getting yet another scholarship, this time to a music school where he stayed for no less than 2 years until his family moved to Philadelphia. There, John started to find work as a musician. Gillespie, who was now called by the nickname Dizzy that a friend actually once assigned him because of his zany onstage antics, he was asked to play in Frankie Fairfax's band in Philadelphia. The year was 1935, and Gillespie was only 18 years old. In 1937, Dizzy joined the Teddy Hill Orchestra. He would record with the band and would also have the pleasure of touring Europe with that band. In 1939, Dizzy would join the legendary Cab Calloway to play in Cab's band. What an honor that must have been. On the surface, you would actually think that Cab and Dizzy would be a darn good matchup, and on the surface, it actually was. But behind the scenes, it was anything but. And here's one of the reasons. When it came time for Dizzy to do a trumpet solo, he would improvise. Calloway didn't like Dizzy's fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants musical ways. So many of the big band leaders of the day wanted everything written and didn't always take kindly to those band members of theirs that preferred the fine art of improvisation when it came time for the musicians' solos. And suffice it to say, Calloway was one of those. He never really appreciated how masterful Gillespie was at creating music that wasn't always on the stand, so to speak. To make matters worse, one day someone sent, get this, a spitball flying across a rehearsal hall, and it happened to hit Cab Calloway while the band was practicing. Calloway thought Gillespie did the dirty deed, but it was actually another one of Calloway's band members. Unfortunately, this eventually led to Gillespie being let go from Calloway's orchestra. He didn't know it at the time, but this served as a blessing for Dizzy. A period of freelancing was upon Dizzy, and he'd find himself appearing with, get this, and there really was something called the Ella Fitzgerald Band. And yeah, she was the band leader of her own band for a while. Dizzy would also end up appearing with Coleman Hawkins, Benny Carter, Charlie Barnett, Fess Williams, Les Height, Claude Hopkins, and a guy by the name of Lucky Millinder, all greats in the big band era. Gillespie wouldn't only play, he would also make quite a name for himself as a music arranger for many of those bands that he ended up appearing with. He was an amazing arranger, really. During this time, he would find himself doing just that for big band names such as Benny Carter, also Jimmy Dorsey and Woody Herman, besides the bands that we mentioned before. In 1942, Dizzy would join Earl Hines' big band. It was then that Gillespie wrote one of his most famous tunes. You probably know of it, A Night in Tunisia, a true iconic masterpiece. 1945 was a banner year for Dizzy. He would team up with Charlie Parker and would record the following hits: Shaw Enough, Shawnuff, another tune by the name of Groovin' High, another one by the name of Hot House, how about a tune by the name of I Can't Get Started, and the amazing scat-filled super fast Salt Peanuts, which is a great number. If you can find that on YouTube or iTunes or Apple Music, look for Gillespie's version of Salt Peanuts. It is an amazing piece of work. So, bebop. As I said before, it was Dizzy Gillespie who helped bring bebop to the fore. Everything was moving and grooving just fine for Dizzy, but one thing at this point happened to have been missing: a band that he could truly call his own. So what did he do? He ended up creating one. The year in which he did that was 1945. Dizzy and his band were very, very successful for no less than 4 years. And it was at this point in time that he would add a couple of new items to his signature look, his very unique look. The bent trumpet with the puffed out cheeks were staples of his, but now he would add a beanie, sunglasses, and a goatee. This look, along with the bebop sound Dizzy had created, was all the rage in America at the time. Every big band still around tried to play bebop, but no band could play it like Dizzy's. Why? Well, because of Dizzy. But like all musical fads, bebop reached its peak and all but ended its popular run as a current musical form by 1950. Dizzy's groundbreaking orchestra, unfortunately, was no more, and Mr. G was looking for something else to do. In 1956, Dizzy was authorized to form a big band to specifically play a tour overseas that was sponsored by the State Department. It was that tour such a smash that Dizzy then took the band on tours to the Near East, Europe, and South America. The band would play together all the way to 1958. He was the first jazz artist to be sent abroad under the auspices of the United States government, spreading American goodwill and American good music all around the world. After that, Dizzy would keep his art alive by playing in small jazz combos and appearing at major jazz festivals. And get this, would you believe that in 1964, Dizzy put himself in the running as a presidential candidate? That was in 1964. He promised that if he were to be elected, the White House would be renamed the Blues House. Ray Charles would be appointed Librarian of Congress. Miles Davis would become head of the CIA, and Malcolm X, the Attorney General. Who did Dizzy say his running mate would be? Phyllis Diller. And as you can easily see, there was a fine example of Gillespie's amazing sense of humor. He was certainly a very colorful figure, to say the least. He would end up writing his autobiography in 1979 and would call it To Be or Not to Bop. Gillespie was also a frequent guest on TV's The Bill Cosby Show and would also record with many popular artists such as Stevie Wonder. By 1989, Dizzy Gillespie had given over 300 performances in no less than 27 countries and appeared in no less than 100 US cities in 31 states, as well as the District of Columbia, appeared in countless television specials, performed with numerous symphony orchestras, recorded a heap of records. He was also crowned a traditional chief in Nigeria and was a huge hit in Cuba. He was given France's most prestigious cultural award. He got the Kennedy Center Honors. He got a Lifetime Grammy Award. He received over 14 honorary doctorate degrees. Dizzy also happens to have a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. And that was just up to 1989. Dizzy's last number of years were spent as a leader of the United Nations Orchestra. Whether he was abroad or back at home, Dizzy never stopped playing, laughing, and just having the best time he could possibly have each and every day. That would unfortunately come to an end in 1993 when the great Dizzy Gillespie would leave this world due to a serious bout with pancreatic cancer. The great Dizzy Gillespie was only 76 years old, but you can be sure that he's up there somewhere playing that bent horn with those puffy cheeks, with that goatee, beanie, and sunglasses, and having the best time ever. Thank you very much. Dizzy married once to a lady who was a dancer at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. They married in 1940. Gillespie was also a member of the Baha'i faith, a religion that was founded in 1863 in Persia that emphasizes the spiritual unity of all of mankind. I'd like to close this presentation in two ways, and here's the first. The following words that I'm going to share with you were written as a eulogy to the legend that is Dizzy Gillespie, and I think it sums up things quite well when it comes to this larger-than-life, always amazing, cherished musical personality. And it goes like this. Dizzy, you have given an example for all who will see it of the difference one life can make in how all of us here, in helping us transcend our limiting beliefs, in getting past historical and geographical boundaries towards a vision of one world in which everyone is challenged to find out how far they can go. Very telling and true words that I feel sums up the life and times of the great Dizzy Gillespie. And here's another closer that I would like to share with you. Dizzy, thank you for being wonderful you. Thank you for sharing your passion with us. Thank you for sharing your heart and soul with us. You knew at a very early time in your life what you were going to do and how exactly you were going to do it. And most important of all, you managed to have fun each and every day doing it. And when you think about it, folks, who could ask for anything more? This has been Robert Landau, Live Life Well TV host, with another episode of America's Greatest Personalities. We'll see you next week for another great American personality. God bless.